Brown incarceration got my people living daily. Gang wars back to back till the home is where they send me. Back against the wall, CL20s knocking ready. IGI tripping, validated, shoot ready. Brown incarcerated got my people living daily. Gang wars.
Hey, yo, what's good with everybody, man? I hope everybody's having a productive day. Feel the blessing like I always say. It's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. With that being said, subscriber asked me, it was interesting. I'm pretty sure it was genuine, but it was awkward for me because I had to figure out an answer. Honestly, this is one of the ones I really didn't know an answer for. So I had to figure it out. I had to come up with it. But I got two topics that I want to discuss all in one video. So, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, always leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And if you're from Northern California and you are active, homie, you know, your perspective would be nice, man. I'm going to share mine. Maybe you can share yours with the fellow subscriber. First question my subscriber asks is, when you were a Norteño, how did you feel about Vatos tattooing Buster on them? It seems odd that they would tattoo an insult to me. A couple of Vatos that I asked why they would do that, another odd way, they say it's like a slap to the face. I asked the few Sureños what they thought, and their response was, slap yourself again. What's your thoughts on this? Once you respond, I will edit the comments so people don't take it out of context. Which you don't have to. I believe everybody's entitled to their opinion. Everybody has their own perspective. I want this community to share perspectives no matter what the topic is. Now, mind you, since, the beginning when the founders were called, fameros, farmers, like it said in the American Me movie and in the Black Handbook, they called us lame farmers because, we were considered an inferior race. We were looked down upon. We were belittled, and we were less valued. So when the homies finally, waged war, that became our war cry, that we are fameros, that we are these less than people that stood up for their rights and their protection and their safety and their identity. So then we started embracing the term farmland and fameros because, in all actuality, that's where a lot of the individuals began recruiting in these farmlands, which became our regions due to the division. We embraced it. We're talking about the 50s and 60s when all the cities that you see right now weren't really cities. It was really farmland. That was the majority work. The agriculture work, means going out there in the fields and working these farmlands. So I honestly don't even know where the term Buster derived from. But being that it was used as an insult to identify us from up north, it's in the same sense. It's under the same context. We took that insult and turned it into a title. We embraced that title because we looked at it from the mentality like, you can call us whatever you want, but we're not going to be disrespected because as a northerner and as Norteños, and don't doubt, for all the Norteños watching, don't even doubt it, bro. We began looking at ourselves as a superior race, as Chicanos, as being better than Southerners. And it's going to be both sides. Sureños are going to look at it like, they're the original founders when it comes to the barrios, street banging, since the Pachuco days. It did originate from down south. The homies, a lot of the founding fathers were from down south, ended up north, recruiting from up north, conquered and gained the territory from up north. So they're going to always look at us like we're the inferior race. And then Norteños developed the idea, and based on the fact that a lot of individuals throughout the years were putting a work on any Southerner that existed up north that crossed that geographical line, they started looking at themselves as a superior race. So both sides have that mentality where like they're better than the other. So they embrace. For me, from what I understand, is like we embrace that term because it's like there's nothing you can tell us and nothing you can call us that's gonna insult us because we're better than you guys. That's how I perceived it when I was active. And then on YA and then on the streets when you're kids, they started putting, the term buster, like busting up, till we turn on raza. Everybody heard that lame one. Then GUN came out with it, like, I can't trust her. I'm just 114% buster. They started embracing it, and it was pretty much teaching the people, like, man, go ahead and embrace that term. Just like the same way the founding fathers started calling La M moscas, because according to the history, it says they were dropping like flies. Now they look at them as that. Now the founding fathers look at the M, which were powerful and are powerful to this day, as an inferior race, like they ain't nothing but Moscows. Homie, they just, we just swat them out the way. I hear these terminologies that come through. A lot of them oftentimes are real meaningless, but it's like the same thing from like down south. Some people might take diss other audios and hoods, or like I said, the one I heard of that I used to trip out on, like white fans, everybody called them waffles. And sometimes, I would see Sureños in YA, when they serve waffles and breakfast, it was like, oh, fool, you dissing the hood food, but they'll still eat the waffles. But they look at it like a sense of pride, and, they don't care that they're being disrespected and insulted. So that's all it did, was that we developed the mind frame and the identity that you really can't diminish our image. You really can't insult us, because in our minds, we're better than you guys. That's the best answer that I can come up with. Because like I said, I don't know where the term Buster derived from and why they decided to call the homies that, but we just looked at it like we were going to allow a simple terminology to affect us and to insult us, when in all actuality, we felt like we're better than everybody else. And that's the God honest truth. And if anybody has doubts, you're more than welcome to leave a comment in the comment section. Now, one of my subscribers, the homie Corey, that's been subscribing for me for a long time, provided this question on my Instagram. He said, question, how do you feel about Norteños in different states, and how do you feel it's fair or unfair to blame the people who started the NF for dooming generations of young Hispanics to early graves and decades of federal and state prison times? Now, me and the homie Hangout actually did an interview together, and we were talking about it, but it didn't come out too good, so we're going to try a different topic. We're going to try to do this again. So I'll personally answer this topic myself. The first part, when I met the ones out of state in Oklahoma that were from Colorado, didn't compare to the type of politics that they were pushing, but administration thought that we were going to sit there and extort them, because the way California, us, the South, the blacks, the whites, went there and took over the whole facility, a lot of them got robbed out of their phones. They ended up kicking them out the facility. So I was only there with them for like 2 weeks, so I really don't have a perspective on Northerners from different states. I really don't. I know they're blowing up. Like, I know there's a rapper from Washington, from Yakizma, something Washington. His flow's pretty good. I heard there's homies everywhere. They're branching out. They're trying to expand. More power to them. But honestly, like I was telling the homie Hangout, I go, honestly, it's very true. Because I think we were doomed from the gate. Because as beautiful as it sounded in the beginning, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people that when they founded this whole, Nuestra Familia, and then the birth of the NR from the XIV Soldados up to date, I'm pretty sure the concept and the idea of the struggle of what we were up against and what we were trying to accomplish was beautiful, and it was a great ideology and a great movement to embrace. But if you think about it, all we were doing was training our people to not only be self-secured and better positioned for protecting one another, but think about it. When the NF, a lot of them are doing lifers, a lot of them did come out, but a lot of them are doing lifers and created a big crime organization, a big syndicate. But when they got slammed down in the 80s after the first state RICO acts into the indeterminate shoot terms, they had no access to control the main lines. They had no access to funds. They had no access to the street regiments no more. It was very difficult. So the birth of the NR, once the two individuals decided to approach the NF and be like, look, man, the gente are getting hurt out here by the Mexican mafia. We need to, train us, bro. Give us something, to protect ourselves. So when they got trained in weaponry and warfare tactics, if you read La Historia that was passed down from the NF to Norteños to study back in my time, the whole time it illustrates what hermanos were going out to the main lines and blasting, and how many Mexican mafia members they were taking off the yard. That's all it illustrates. It didn't illustrate nothing about educating the people, teaching the people, protecting one another, getting them out to the streets. The whole history is just outlined under guerra, bloodshed. It's like we were brainwashing the youngsters to understand that, man, our whole struggle is based on how much bloodshed we provided and sacrificed throughout our time. That's all you were reading. 1989, 1991, we blasted 3M here. We blasted 4 here on the streets. We took over these streets, hurt these people, extorted these people. These indictments happened in 1991 or 92 in San Jose, California, with, Bobby Lopez, Hot Wheels. and everybody else. So even with the history in itself, it became a propaganda of trying to teach and brainwash the homies that you will be entitled to shed blood. You will be entitled to throw your life away and sacrifice on behalf of our needs of the NF will. That's all it really is. So all the youngsters in my generation going to prison system felt like the only way to become somebody and be somebody in prison is the level of bloodshed you're willing to provide on behalf of the struggle, on behalf of NF will. So yeah, we've been doomed from the gate, because even though it started off like we need to protect our people, right now they're abandoned because of the RICO indictments and the prison administration locking us down and placing us in the hole indeterminately. We're never gonna have access to protect our people and defend our people. So we gotta train them. And obviously it started off on a basic but genuine concept. Like, let's give them all the weaponry and warfare tactics and the CLC training that they need to structure themselves and protect one another. But all it was we need foot soldiers to do our will while we sit here in the hole. So that's all we became. It's just militant foot soldiers. And you know what a soldier does? Takes orders. Does a soldier disobey? No. He follows through. Does a soldier have to sacrifice? Yes. A blood sacrifice. So in reality, we were doomed from the gate, because as much as we wanted to protect our people, that way they can do their time freely, as it says in the bonds in the format, without the threat or interference of the opposition, we were always presented with a threat of interference, because the NF decided to start a statewide war, become their own people, break free of, the oppressive grip that the Mexican mafia had on the rest of the gente that were up north, the lame farmers. So we had no other choice but to engage. We had no other options. We had no other form of existence other than bloodshed and warfare. And to this day, even with the peace treaty, we're still hurting one another. That's all we did. The war went from an oppositional force to focusing on a war within. That's why bond number 4 is so strong about internal confrontation. But the thing about that is that the NF and the Norteños with status, like around my time and the hermanos before then, are solely responsible for the amount of the dropout and the BNL individuals that are on them lists. We did it to ourselves. We shot ourselves in the foot. All we did was just colonize our own people in the end, with all these rules, with all these regulations, with all these street taxes, all this these fines when we break these rules in the street regiments. How many of our people are actually in prison doing life without never coming home, because they felt like what they were doing was in the best interest of the NF or the NR, and they ain't coming home no more? I bet you a lot of people sit there like with no regrets, but at the same time, at some point in their time, they're sitting there like, man, damn, man, I threw my whole life away. I ain't never gonna see my kids again. I ain't gonna be there for my kids' graduation. My mom's gonna pass away, and I'm not gonna be there to bury her. So we have been doomed. Because the NF, a lot of the individuals that remain are doing life that are never coming home. Skip, Tibbs, DC, Corny, everybody. They're not coming home. So what they're trying to do is gain it all before they pass away. Be looked at as one of some of the most prolific political prison figures known to man, known to us, known to the people. So they're willing to drive everybody else down that path of criminality, incarcerate our own minds in accordance to their belief system, institutionalize us by keeping us here in these prison facilities, continuing following these rules, following these regulations, following these sacrifices, committing these sacrifices, catching more time. What has the NF and the birth of the NR and what it is now, the Norteño struggle, how has it ever benefited us other than just creating one big criminal organization? Why? Because you're in competition of what the Mexican mafia created? Your whole purpose of breaking off of that was not to be them, but you just became them. And then you hurt our people in the same sense that they hurt their people. They discard their people a lot more because there's a lot more of them as opposed to the homies up north. So yeah, it's very unfortunate, but I had to learn that the hard way. I got to experience all the bloodshed. I got to experience, homies getting forced to throw their release date away on behalf of what this individual felt was right and wrong. Or because of this rule states this, and this individual didn't really know no better, but he broke the rules so severely that we need to make an example of him so the rest of the people don't make the same mistakes as that man did. But hey, actives don't seem to recognize that, and actives won't take responsibility for that. Instead, they're just going to continue to say, well, he's a dropout. He didn't make the cut. He's a dropout because he couldn't handle it. What is there to handle? As far as I'm concerned, I've been out here 3 years, and that's probably more hard than doing prison time. Try doing 3 years of building great credit so you can afford a house, not just a regular house, a 3-story house with a pool in the backyard like we always dreamed about. You know, take the responsibility. You know how hard it is to take the responsibility, you know, making all your payments on time without falter, no defaults. Not racking up a debt out here so you don't have to, because Uncle Sam's going to take that money one way or another. You know, take that responsibility of actually showing up for your kids instead of showing up for your hood. That responsibility of feeding a family every day and putting your own personal interest aside for the best interest of your family. In the same sense, you're willing to make that same sacrifice for dudes all across the world you didn't even know, but just because they bang an A and they got a 14 on their chest, makes it right, makes it more important, makes it a moral obligation that's more worthy than your family back home. These 3 years out here getting a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car apartment, getting a nice car, not an older car, but a newer car, building up my credit, maintaining a full-time job for 3 years. This has been a lot harder. These 3 years have been a lot harder for me than just doing 15 years in prison time because, you know, in prison, you know, we make that life and it's all free. So yes, in a sense, I hate to talk down on my people because in reality, me being from up north, they're still my people, even though I'm affiliated with my movement. I still look at it like, man, they're still Chicanos. I'm still a Chicano. You know, I want the best for them. But in all essence, all we did was place our people under a vice grip just for power and control. That's all the outcome was, because we can sit there and indoctrinate our people with all this beautiful belief system and this propaganda and everything about the cause, the struggle, what we're aiming for, what we're determined to accomplish. But it's like a long-term goal that's never going to be accomplished. It's a long-term goal that you can't even see the outcome of. So it's more or less just manipulation and brainwash because it's never going to happen. But like I said, when it comes to actives and the big homies, they're not going to take that responsibility because they're going to look at it like, there's an overall goal. There's an overall agenda. This is what they signed up for. You know, we can make all the illogical excuses we can to justify our actions for being active and remaining active. But in all reality, bro, we just did the same thing that we were fighting against. We did the same thing to ourselves. And we just hurt our people in the long run. And then you wonder why a lot of our homeboys don't make it out here and become family members, become citizens, become bigger like the Italians, like the mafia. Because we're too busy trying to keep these prisons in our hands. We're too busy trying to keep these little streets, these little blocks, these little neighborhoods in an iron fist. So yes, that is my honest opinion, and I'm sorry I'm probably going to offend a lot of people and I'm going to hurt a lot of people's feelings for it, but it's the God honest truth, man. I don't see no reason to fabricate it or lie about it or say otherwise, because I'm not here to glorify nothing. I'm just here to speak my truth, speak my perspective, in hopes that you guys will share yours as well. So with that being said, like I always say, it's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. Peace.